A very good Friday. Thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook. Of course, it is now that time of the year where we're watching the stratospheric polar vortex, the strength, its health, and that will be a big player, of course, as we go into the heart of the winter season. So, really, through September and October, as the sun angle continues to lower over the high latitudes, we see the birth of the polar vortex once again. And certainly over recent weeks, it has been somewhat stronger than normal. And there has been a few hints that this polar vortex, just like last year, could remain colder and stronger than normal, which would, of course, keep our weather predominantly milder and firmly westerly driven. But there has been also some modelling recently, including big players such as the GFS and even more so the ECMWF, that has indicated a somewhat weaker polar vortex as we go into the month of December. So in today's video, I thought I would have a look at the 10 millibar level, the temperature, and just have a look and see exactly what we can expect as we go into the month of December. Of course, the first month of meteorological winter. But you can see here that as I play through the loop now, at this very moment in time, we have a fairly strong, compact and pole-centered vortex. But one thing worth noting here is even if we do get a weaker vortex, a displacement, or even a sudden stratospheric warming, not every time that happens do we expect to see cold here in the UK, Ireland, or Western Europe. A lot of it depends on exactly where that warming comes from and what direction does the polar vortex get shunted off its axis, so to speak. So it's a lot more complicated than just saying, oh, if we get a weaker vortex, we're guaranteed to have a winter. That is not the case, because a lot of the time it's dependent upon where the core of the cold goes. We could have a polar vortex that gets pushed from Asia as the Siberian high strengthens and it actually penetrates into the stratosphere and essentially nudges that core of coldest air towards Greenland, towards the British Isles even, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're guaranteed to see colder weather in the UK. We could see, like a few years back, brutal cold over North America because the polar vortex essentially dropped into eastern North America, bringing record-breaking cold. But in fact, we didn't see any of that. So it's interesting that the models are at least indicating a weakening of the polar vortex. That is certainly a positive sign, of course, if you're looking for winter weather, but doesn't necessarily guarantee that we're going to see winter weather here. Essentially, what you want to see is the warming taking place way up at, either 50 HPA or right up to 10 HPA. Of course, that's the upper level of the stratosphere. You want to see warming taking place essentially over Greenland, because that is where your origin is going to take place underneath at 500 millibars or 18,000 feet above sea level. That's where you want to see, so that the cold air can then get dumped into eastern North America and Western Europe if you've got that blocking high over Greenland. And the general trend, if you look at some of the graphs in recent years, the trend has been for a more positive North Atlantic oscillation, and but we are overdue. We are overdue a negative North Atlantic oscillation winter. Could this be the case this year? Well, that all remains to be seen, of course. But let's have a look and play through the sequence here. And I wanna draw your attention specifically to this area of high pressure here, that's over the Pacific Ocean here. So of course, Greenland is almost just off the center, but you see the core of the coldest air essentially getting shifted down over Greenland and over over part of Europe. In fact, the core of the coldest air and even the center of the axis is now, actually, as you can see here, over the north of Greenland. To me, folks, that is not what you want to see if you're looking for a North Atlantic block. In fact, you're probably looking more at a positive North Atlantic oscillation here, with the coldest air centered over Greenland. But it's interesting as we skip through the loop, you kind of see where the pressure is getting put on the vortex from the Pacific side, uh, and then pushing the vortex more towards our side of the pole. And so it's interesting to see at least there's some disruption. Um, there is definitely forces within the subtropics that is affecting this polar vortex, and that is certainly a good sign if you want to see winter weather down in the mid latitude region. So just something I wanted to look at today. I haven't looked at it really so far this year yet, and I'm going to be, of course, looking at this in more detail as I publish my winter forecast in the coming days, hopefully. So that's it for today. I hope you have a great day, and I'll be back in the next few days with more. Bye for now.